Ask the Podcast Coach for November 1st, 2025.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music that means it's Saturday morning. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from theschoolofpodcasting.com. And joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Happy All Saints Day, a reaction for the church for Halloween. So we're glad you made it on. Yeah, there you go. Glad you made it on the other side of Halloween. Welcome back.
Yeah, I think the whole Ring camera kind of spoiled the whole trick part of trick or treat.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? You can't leave steaming piles of dog poo on somebody's,
No.
They're going to like, hey, Johnny, we have film of you.
Although I don't think it matters. On a night like that, are you really going to be able to find, teenage mutant Ninja Turtle who left a turd on your porch? Not going to happen.
Yeah, but it is getting, I don't know about you, I woke up and said it was 36 degrees outside, and I was like, oh, it is November.
Yeah, fall is here. This is really one of those years. We went from summer. I mean, it was still like 80 a week ago.
Yeah.
Here. And then 30.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to winter.
The last Sunday, it said it was 30, I think 5 out when I got up and I had to scrape my car to go to church and was like, somebody's lying because if it's 35, it shouldn't be freezing on my windshield. So
it's
dang
the
you,
dew
Alexa.
Point, Dave, that matters. It's the dew point. No. We don't say the other things anymore. It's the dew point. So.
Oh, there we go. But of course, you know what'll keep it nice and toasty is that's right. My Alexa is going crazy for some reason. A hot cup of Java and that coffee pour is brought to you by our good friend Mark over at podcastbranding.co, because he'll make you a whole website. He'll make you, cool artwork, which is, if you're watching this on YouTube, he's made a bunch of mine, and he can make a PDF, anything that you want to look good in front of your audience. Because look, you can only make a first impression once. Mark is an award-winning graphic artist. He's a podcaster, which is, you don't know how great that is until you try to work with someone who's like, yeah, a podcast thing, that's that thing on YouTube, right? And you're like, no, it's not. So Mark's going to sit down with you one-on-one, find out what you want to do with your show. Let him be the marketing guy. You're the podcast person, and you're just going to get that personalized one-on-one attention that you're just not going to get anyplace else. So when you're ready to look your best, there's only one place to go. That's podcastbranding.co. Tell him Jave, yes, Jave and Dim sent you.
It's our combined name.
That's right.
Jave. Big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast.com. And he's been taking a little time off, but Project Blue Book is still out there if you want to take a look at it. I always encourage you, Dan does some amazing cover art. And if you want to see how cover art should be done or could be done, I don't want to, no shaming, no cover art shaming here today. If you want to see you want to see some good art there, check it out. Based on a true story podcast.com. And as always, Dan, thanks for your sponsorship.
Yeah, since it's November, that means it's the first day of NaPodPoMo, which I forget what it stands for.
I haven't
Basically,
heard that in a while.
Yeah, you do a November challenge, which usually means I'm already way ahead of the game. This is where I usually stop cutting my hair, so by January I look like Jerry Garcia. But if you're doing the November challenge with a podcast, all I say is about the 10th, when you're a little crispy, it's okay to stop. I've seen people that just burn themselves ragged because, on one hand, I love it because it just gets you to create, right? Get your reps in, go to town. So I love that part of it. But when it just burns people out to where they're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, well, realize you're not going to be podcasting every day. Maybe do one a week or two a week or whatever, but not every day. And the content creator's accountant. It's true. Ralph is doing that. He's been podcasting daily for years, which I still think is madness. I tell you, madness. But if you got it in you,
like doing it. If you like doing it.
Yeah, exactly. If you like doing it, do it. If not, to me, it sounds like a great way just to burn yourself. I did it one year. I did it, and it was like, yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to do that again. And I was doing things like my top 10 albums of all time, and I was just finding anything to talk about. But in the end, I was like, if I was brand new to podcasting, if I didn't realize I'm just getting my reps in, I really could see where, in a way, that could be, a spooky way to just burn people out. But so just know that going in.
Yeah, it depends how you make them, how much, depends. My posting process is fairly complicated, right? At all the different places I send it to, and
Right.
the different pieces that I do. I've actually, with AI, the actual show note part that used to be a burden, like I hated writing show notes, is now actually really enjoyable, right? As the AI is helping me do those things that I'm not very good at. And I've gotten it down to kind of my science, so to speak, where I do the prompts in certain order, I give it information in certain order. That has actually made for me, the posting process a little bit more enjoyable. So, or it used to be a chore, and I would have, Dave, if I would have tried to do Home Gadget Geeks style daily,
Yeah.
well, the interviews by themselves would probably burn me out. There's just a lot to it, but hey, there can be ways to make things easier for you.
Yeah. Randy Black says, I tried daily and made it about 15 days before I, threw in the towel. Speaking of Randy Black, no show next week. I will be at Pod Indy shaking hands with the one and only Randy Black, along with Craig Van Slyke from AI Goes to College. He's going to be doing a half-day seminar, doing a deep dive into AI stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. For more information, go to podindy.com. Dave says it could be a good way to get some people started. Yeah, that's the thing where I've done this many times where I use an app called Chronometer, and I'll start off and just be great, and I'm tracking all my food, and then somewhere around Thursday, the wheels fall off. And for some reason, every Sunday, I'm like, all right, back on the thing. So sometimes just a new month will be the thing to get you going. Realize, though, if you're thinking of starting a podcast in 2026, if you start now doing the planning, doing the research, maybe that's what a lot of people are doing now, this whole daily thing, is they're trying to get their reps in. So when January hits, they're ready to do it for reals and, go to town. So instead of waiting like everybody else till January, and then they do their reps, and then they're ready to launch in whatever March or something like that. So yeah, Rich says, I did Vlogmas in 2020, made it 22 days. Daily sports history, I went from 7 to 5 days a week. Have a kid with a heart condition. Well, that'll change your schedule real quick.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Ralph said, I love doing daily so much. I added another show and then another, but only one daily. Yeah. That's my biggest regret, having so many shows that I was like, I think if I had to do it again, I'd do one show and just make it amazing, as opposed to, I got 3 shows there, not bad, so that whole 9 yards. But speaking of
hold on real quick.
Good.
It was a little bit of a different day,
Yeah.
5 years ago, even 5, 6, 7 years ago, when podcasting was still fairly edgy. And like, I think the edge is off of it. Like there hasn't really been any new technologies around it for a while. I mean, podcasting 2.0 tried to do that and had some success
Right.
of getting some new things, but there isn't really anything new. And then we've seen the advent of the mega podcaster, right? Joe Rogan started with Serial, and then some other ones. Rogan's kind of come on. I think, we're seeing this with the Kelsey brothers with New Heights. And it's kind of, I just don't feel like it's as edgy as it used to be. Like, I think even for the people listening, and I, like Dave, in those early days, I felt like we were breaking ground.
Yeah.
Like, we were like, we're rebels out here. We're gonna, stick it to the radio man, and we got, we can reach people you can't. And I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like, it's kind of mainstream and it's okay. I mean, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't be doing it. Don't hear me say that. This is not a podcasting's over. You
No,
know, everything's falling down. It's just not as it used to be. I'm a rebel. Like, and
right.
I
But
used
here's
to
the
like,
thing:
you know,
where's the rebelliousness in this? Because we'll get Jeff. I pinned your question, by the way. We're going to circle back to that. But this guy says, "Are reality podcasts a thing?" A couple of friends of mine, and I get together a couple times a week, and we sit around and BS while we watch football, baseball, or whatever. Other friends started stopping by, and they said we should start a podcast and just record the BS conversations, which cover life topics in general or things happening in our lives personally. So we said, F it, and we started one in January. Our expectations are zero, and our metrics are okay, but we have a blast doing it. That's the key. And everyone that comes over wants to record with us. Are there any other podcasts that are similar, or do most have structure, or our show is a train wreck? But that is kind of what we already know. Of course, we knew nothing when we started, and we have 20 episodes now. Wait, they've been podcasting since January. They do a couple a week, so they're not being consistent then. They should have, let's see, this is, yeah. Yeah, it sounds like they're doing every other week, maybe. But anyway, I would love to know if people actually want to hear about other people's realities, or if not. I understand listeners will flock to a good podcast, and I know ours is far from a professional cast. However, there is something entertaining in terms of value to it, but interested in everyone's thoughts. I know if we start on a particular niche, it could be easier, but we are content with what we're doing now. Thanks in advance for this. So there are two things that I like about this. One, we're having fun doing it, and two, we are content with what we're doing. Well, then keep doing it. But I mean, it's one of those where it's like, hey, I'm going to call my friend that I've known for 50 years, and I'm going to record the phone call. Should that be a podcast? We're going to talk about guitars. We're going to talk about hot chicks in high school. Yeah, but it's like not every conversation needs to be made public. So I just answered them. I said, look, if you're making me laugh, cry, think, groan, educate, or entertain, if you're saving me time or money, I'll listen to that. But if you're not, I'm not. And my guess is I would love to know what the name of the show is and go look at it. It's probably 2 hours long. They're doing it Rogan style, that they love to say. I don't know, but to me, do people actually listen to this? If it's good, yeah, I'll listen to that. But if it's not
interesting, I mean, that's what the Kelsey brothers are doing.
Right.
I mean, they're just getting together and just talking about football, right? That's their thing. And I've listened to that podcast a couple times. It's not that good.
No, it's not. I made it through maybe the first 5 minutes because it was all ads. The beginning of it, I was like, and they're like, oh, you can get our new coat. You can do this. And I was like, you guys going to ever talk, because I like both of them. They seem funny and kind of koof, but it was like, when are we going to get to the show, guys? Come on.
No, and Jason's, was dropping the F-bomb like every third word.
Right.
And I'm okay with that, but not that much. Right. So you're like, but that's what they're doing. I mean, they're brothers who got together. Let's just talk about things that are going on in our life. Now they hit a sweet spot where, listen, if Travis would not have found Taylor, nobody in this audience would know who Travis Kelsey is. Let's just be really clear about that. Right. So, I mean, I know I follow the Kansas City Chiefs, but nobody here would have known, and maybe a few of you, but so they hit that lucky, like all the universe, it kind of came together. But I don't, listen, if it brings you joy, to sit around and do those things, do it.
Do it. Exactly.
We just don't think everybody wants to listen to you guys just BSing.
Yeah. Chris says having fun is a fine reason to do a podcast, but not everything we think is interesting is actually interesting. Right. And unless you're a big celebrity, you can't get away with just chit chatting about nothing. It's got to be, as much as Seinfeld is a show about nothing, that's the topic, nothing. But I mean, it was still weird and interesting and funny, but even that,
network television, it had Larry David.
Yeah,
it was Jerry Seinfeld. Like by that point, they had all become names, right? And they went through the first couple seasons weren't very good.
No, it almost went off the air. Yeah, it took a while for their audience to find them, which brings up this question, which there are two here that I'm just like, what? This one. fear of starting is killing me. It says I feel like I have important things to share, but fear of starting a podcast or a blog You're afraid of a blog? Okay. And sometimes lack of inspiration. Well, that's important. Are holding me from starting. How did you start? And so for me, I always say when the fear of looking stupid or dumb or whatever has got you worried, when that is less than the need to serve your audience, you will start. But if your fear is way more than I got to talk about this, you're just not going to do it. And I think that's what this person is doing. So, but when you first start off, you don't have an audience. Like we all start with zero. And so, you've got to go out there and promote it to get your first 5 people and then hope that 2 of those tell somebody else and then 2 of those tell somebody else, et cetera. I don't know. I don't remember. The only reason I was remotely worried when I started was I didn't know how to make a podcast. Like I got to figure it out. And once I finally did, and I uploaded it and saw it come down, I was like, okay, I got the technology down. Now we just got to talk. And that, I don't know, maybe because of my background in teaching and being able to talk on stage, being a musician, I don't know. I that never, although my very first performance in 6th grade, I sang in the choir. And the minute the last note was over, I ran to the side of the stage and threw up.
Oh yeah.
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 But
by the time you started Podcast Daves, you were a performer already. You'd been on stage, you played
Yeah.
music, you'd been accepted in that form, right? You
yeah,
knew you had some confidence, you had taught, and so you knew how to stand in front of a classroom of people and do that. Not a lot of people get that public experience of being
Yeah.
up in front of people and the jitters and the fear of failure, and all those things are super real, right? I hate to say it, but sometimes you just got to do it. You got to practice on a few things. You got to get some confidence. You got to do some scary stuff. And push past that fear a little bit. Listen, I still get nervous. I get nervous before we start on Saturday mornings.
Oh, yeah.
So nerves are not a indication of fear. They are. Actually they are. But you got to kind of push through those and say, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be okay. This is going to be fine. Nobody's going to die. This is going to be great. Or it won't be. It could be a disaster, but I'm going to learn from it. And so I think at some point, if you're going to do it, you've got to. I would say if you're just that afraid, you're going to have to trick yourself into this thing.
Right.
You're going to have to come up with something to get you in a spot to gain some confidence. Maybe don't do video. Do audio only. Don't use your real name. Do some, we say this all the time. Do some practice ones. Do 10 of these that aren't going to go anywhere. Get some reps, right? Get some reps.
Yeah. Mark says you really need to figure out what you want to talk about. What's the topic? If you're struggling with that, then don't start until you do. Yeah. Anytime I have somebody say, I want to start a podcast, I'm just not sure what to talk about. I go, you're not ready to podcast. I'm like, just not that you shouldn't. I'm just saying not now is not the time. Chrissy from Creating Great Grooming Dogs, college radio and spinning vinyl prepared me for podcasting. Yeah. And then Jeff C., if you go through life avoiding all fear, you'll lose all life's opportunities. Yeah, that's every time I hit go live on this thing, even though this morning I updated Ecamm and then I had to restart. And first of all, I've now realized that instead of rebooting my whole computer, which I did anyway, but I've found out that usually what I need to do is then restart the Elgato something central, blah, 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 that ties it to the Stream Deck and everything worked. But I've had weeks where everything has worked and then we'll start the show and nothing works. And, it doesn't kill you. So it's, I always say the worst thing that could happen is, 2 things are going to happen. Either A, you have a successful podcast, or you have a great story about that time when you started a podcast. I mean, it's, there was a time I started a show called New to Cooking, and I'd have to go look, but I think it has 6 episodes because it dawned on me because I was kind of getting into cooking, kind of. And after about 6 episodes, it dawned on me, oh, you know why I don't cook? I don't like it. And so I was just like,
Yeah.
And so consequently, the passion, I didn't have that passion of like, oh, I got it. It started off cool and I bought a bunch of stuff for my kitchen. But, in the end, 90% of my cooking is, chicken breasts on a grill, which then get nuked the rest of the week. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, how did you cook your lunch today? I threw it in the microwave for 2 minutes. That's welcome to the show called 2 minutes in the microwave. Well, make anything you want. So it's not the end if you try something. Most fear or public performance anxiety, fear comes to lack of preparation and or content. Yeah, that's it. That's I spend like probably an hour this morning going through Reddit and getting questions and things like that. So I'm ready here to do whatever we need to do, but it's not going to kill you. And like Jeff said, if you push through, it's no big deal. But we had another question that I saw that was like, and that's this one. What do posts on social media? What do you post on social media and how do you engage other than posting about releases? And it says, as we all know, social media is a key part of podcasting. Is it though? And probably the number one tool to market your podcast. Is it really? From what I see, there's posting and there's engaging. It's best to stay active, but how do your channels do that? And so to me, I summarize this as, what do I say on social? And so when I see that, I kind of scratch my head because I'm like, well, if you saw let's pretend you're in a building and, oh, cool. But I don't see you, Randy. Randy says he's in the green room and I have my Zoom up and I got nothing. Let me give you, I will put this in the chat room, Randy. That's the link to Ecamm. We'll try that one. But to me, if somebody was in the hallway and you saw them coming down, wouldn't you be like, hey, Jim, how was your weekend? What's going on? Be social on social media. That would be, in terms of it. So he had me where he's like, well, don't just say, guess what? Episode 16 is out. Instead, just say, wow, I just be social. And that's where I wonder sometimes if, that whole being social thing is just something that people don't understand what that means. I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
I mean, certainly it's a platform for influence, right? Depending on how you're doing it and what you're doing and your creativity. We at Gallup, we spend a lot of time thinking about what we post on our social media channels in the way we present ourselves and the graphics that we put out there and the excellence that goes into those. So, I think there's a lot of, social can be just social. It can also be a lot of influence, and it can be an area for creativity. And, if you can create stuff that other people respond to in a way that's positive for your brand, it can be very good. I don't think, if you're going to just be social on social, then just know that it's probably not going to, you're not going to be out there influencing tens or hundreds or thousands. But you can go about it intentionally, and you can have accounts like that. It can be a big influencer space to go out and influence people. People have whole careers on YouTube and TikTok, and they're making career money on some of these things. So it can happen.
Yeah,
it can. It's the crazy thing, Dave. I watched this guy on YouTube. Should not be popular. Just should not. He shouldn't be popular. He rambles. He does some interesting things. He's not. He's not particularly well dressed or good looking. He doesn't give fashion advice. Like he's just doing things.
Right.
But there's something about him that keeps me coming back. And he just ran over his chainsaw with his backhoe. And so he's talking about how he broke his chainsaw and he showed it, and and it's like, it was interesting to me. Like, it's his life. It's like he's like become a friend. Mm-hmm. And I don't, when I get on here on Saturday mornings with you, I don't say, Dave Jackson, you better be exciting today or I'm out of here. Right? I don't say that because we have a relationship. I think our chat room does too. So, but can it be? Well, absolutely. Like if you're, that's one of those channels that if you're missing, you're missing opportunities.
Yeah. Chris Nessie says, comment on other people's posts. Yep. And interact with the people who would be interested in your content. Yep. That makes sense. And he said, and if you say enough good stuff on your social media, people will click on your profile and make sure you have something on your, that always drives me nuts. When people say stuff in Facebook, I click on their profile and then there's nothing on their Facebook profile about their podcast. I'm like, okay, that was an opportunity wasted. So Mr. Clinton here is saying, laying here in the hospital, that's no fun, after having bladder removal surgery due to cancer.
Right.
As I'm watching your show live, she said, you surely enjoy watching podcasts. I had to laugh. Well, there's nothing else to do. So I'm glad to see that we are better than nothing there, Jim Collison.
No. Listen, the fact that he's in the hospital watching this, thank you for doing that. Listen, we hope you're on a road to recovery.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a big deal. And you know what, Dave, this is an opportunity. Like here we can interact in real time with a person somewhere in the world doing something, significant in their life, and say, get well.
Yeah.
Other forms of media can't do that. This is one of those.
No.
Think about relationship building. This is one of those things. So heal well, my friend. And sorry for your ailments, but heal well.
Well, and speaking of interacting with people, if the buttons will work, yes, we are. We're bringing up the one and only Randy Black. In theory, I thought I had this all set. I'd assigned him to, double click to add a case. See, I assigned him to camera 3. It was all going to be great. Okay. So how do I, this is double click a camera source. I did that. Okay. We'll do this. And I will say the video source is Randy Black on camera 2. There he is, the one and only. I thought that was going to be so cool. I was all set. You did. So how are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. I'm looking forward to next weekend hanging out in Whiteland, Indiana for Pod Indy. Actually got a call from Thursday evening, Brad Miller himself, asking me to take part in something there at the event. So
cool.
Excited about that. It is actually my first in-person podcasting event. So I'm kind of excited. And hey, I get to meet Dave Jackson in person. So I can't complain about that.
There you go. Exciting.
So I wanted to hop on and I just wanted to shout out and give a testimonial to Pod Chapters from Daniel J. Lewis. I decided, I did some beta testing on it for him. So I had seen it, but I hadn't really dove in and heavily used it. It has changed my workflow from about 20 to 30 minutes to put together chapters for an episode and everything with the interface I had with my media host at the time, to chapters are generated and pretty good in about 13 seconds.
Yeah. It's,
the AI tool he has is really awesome.
Yeah. I've, asked the podcast coach murders everything I've ever run it through, because we have 87 different topics by the time the show's done.
Yes.
And Daniel's is the one that has come closest. They all, I don't know why, but none of them, we spend, 2-3 minutes on thanking our awesome supporters. That never gets picked up. I don't know if I need to go, we're going to a new chapter now, AI thing, but but no, Daniel's is really, really cool. So,
I was able to take, I started using the transcription there and quickly ran out of credits. So I have Mac Whisper anyway. So I did all my transcription with Mac Whisper and then uploaded the transcript and used Daniel's AI tools to produce the chapters. And I went through 16 episodes of Shooting It Straight and 68 episodes of Bible Bites and have everything done, chapters on everything, links to the chapters and everything in my feed. Did it all I did most of it while sitting at a conference for work. while listening to vendors tell us about products. I did most of it while I was there, and workflow wise, like I even have it like because I'm on a Mac like you guys are. I
Yeah.
have some automator stuff set up on the Mac, so when I download my media file, it just moves it automatically to where I need it, so I can upload it from one place without having to drag and move files and everything.
Yeah.
So having Daniel's tool has improved my workflow even that much more to make it that much easier.
I have a question because you snuck it in there. You said the host I was using. So who'd you move from and who'd you move to?
Self-hosting. I've got a CDN set up with bunny.net. So I'm running, everything goes into the website, their WordPress websites, everything uploads there, but it copies over automatically to Bunny for the CDN, so that everything gets distributed that way. And the CDN is not very expensive.
No.
They do a minimum charge of $1 a month.
Yeah.
And even when I was doing the music show and had all that stuff going through that CDN, I never paid more than $2 or $3 a month. Because their traffic volume that they allow is dramatic. Like I went from like 300 and some megs used on Bible Bytes before I moved everything over to I'm up at like 3.5 gigs have moved in 2 days, and that cost me 4 cents.
And then you use I'm gonna guess OP3 for your stats.
OP3 is my stats. And the way John has that set up, as long as once you put the redirect in, even if your podcast GUID gets changed, and that just got really nerdy for a lot of people.
It did.
Even if the podcast GUID in the feed changes, because the redirect's in place, he keeps the stats.
Oh,
so
that's
it's
cool.
all still there.
Yeah.
I moved and it's nothing against the guys at Podhome, Barry over at Podhome. They're amazing. They will do they do great stuff. If you have like, hey, can we add this feature? He'll say, let me talk to my developers. I'll let you know. And usually within 48 hours, they have it on. They're pretty good. I just wanted to cut some costs.
Yeah. Well, I knew
so I went from there. Like, I think it's $16 a month for the hosting with them to running this on the CDN. And I'm going to save money that way. So I picked up the cost of using pod chapters from Daniel.
Well, and I know you were really into the streaming Satoshis. Did you see that kind of just not stop?
I'm out.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
The value proposition there. It's just there is no value proposition there at this point because of all the problems we've had with the way Alby handled things, the way that the wallets are going. KeySend is being not necessarily deprecated, but not supported. Like if you set up an Umbrel, a little home server, and install a Bitcoin node and install a Lightning node, by default now that Lightning node with LND, KeySend's turned off. You have to manually go in and turn it on. So even if you got it set up and got your channels open, you wouldn't be getting any sats.
Well, that answered my question. If you tapped out, I'm tapping out because I'm still paying for Alby.
It's not necessarily a tap out. It's just something has to change.
Yeah,
something has to change for it to pick up the proposition of doing it. Like I still like the Umbrel node is still here. It's right under the desk. It's got Bitcoin node running. It's got the Lightning node running. I've got Helipad running on it because Helipad was awesome, but I have no sats on it right now because I took everything out and just pulled it all out instead of letting it sit there. I'll get hit with, or I did get hit. I don't remember when I pulled it out. There are going to be some taxes on that, but it's not a huge amount. And I was able to actually use those funds that were sitting in that node to buy my son an iPad. So I'm not going to complain about that too much.
Awesome. Well, what website are we promoting today?
Let's Shooting It Straight is on hiatus with Jim's passing. It is coming back. Cool. I don't have a date yet on when it's coming back. When I leave Pod Indy next Saturday, I'm heading south to Louisville to visit Jim's daughter. Jim's daughter is going to take over the seat behind the mic. She wants to keep it going. So she's excited. She's ready. So I've got to go Monday evening to Jim's business. I'm meeting his wife there and getting all the equipment together to take over to her and get her set up next weekend. We'll record some stuff while we're there just to get some stuff done and then start recording remotely with her. But I don't have a date yet. So let's talk about Bible Bytes and how everybody should listen. If you don't have a chance to get to church, you want to get a little bit of a lesson in there. Currently going through a series on women in the Bible. I think today we just had an episode come out that was about Hannah. So there's more coming. I'm still working on that. That series, actually, the plans for that series run through, I think, beginning of May. So I've got stuff planned out well in advance.
And if I remember right, it's Bible-Bites,
Bible-Bites.com.
There we go.
BYTES. Yes. I'm looking at a Web3 domain potentially, so I might be moving that. So it might end up being somewhere else, because there is, with the Web3 domains, there is a .podcast TLD. So might consider making that move, but it's working well. I'm not complaining. I've got, a solid, classroom and a half, maybe 2 classrooms, depending on the week, of people who listen. And it's just a way for me to share the stuff I'm studying and learning, and try to get the message out for people who may not be a Christian, but they're looking for something to enhance the faith in their life.
There you go. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for stopping in.
Awesome. I'll see you next Saturday.
All right, man. See you.
Bye. See you, Randy.
The one and only Randy Black. Gotta love that.
In true promoter and influencer fashion, he said, it was just funny. He said, well, we won't talk about this one because it's on a hiatus, but then he talked about it and promoted it. And then he came back to the one he promoted. So Randy, good job on promoting and not promoting it. So
well,
that's all good.
We got 2 questions I want to hit. One is Ralph's. We're going to hit that, and then we're going to go back and get Jeff's question. Awesome. But he said, what is the value of self-hosting? Well, remember when first of all, I got to remember, Randy is a network admin for an entire school system. So I believe, if I remember right, he prefers geek. He's not a nerd. So Randy has a different skill set than most of the listeners of this show. Very intelligent dude. So with self-hosting, much more manual work, maybe a little, I don't know if much, but there's more work. No IAB stat. Well, he's using OP3. OP3 is not IAB certified, but you only care about that if you have sponsors. So it's cheaper, but it's, and he's smart. In the early days, this is what doesn't work, is when you upload your file to WordPress. WordPress is meant to serve web pages, which have text and graphics, which are itty bitty. And then you upload a 60 meg MP3 file, and 300 people try to grab that MP3 file at the same time. It's not bandwidth, it's not storage, it's resources. Because that website host is now going to and it can't keep up. So where he's using a CDN, a content delivery network, which is meant to serve media files, along with many other things. So I used Bunny back in the early days of podcasting 2.0 to serve my JavaScript. Yes, let's geek out, shall we? And that's what I use Bunny. And it's much cheaper. And if you use OP3 for the stats, so you would have, which is just a redirect that, for the record, you probably don't need. I know so many people will put PodTrack, then OP3, which is by the record, it's op3.dev. The nice thing about it makes your stats public. So if you ever want to share your stats, you can do that. But I'll see people have PodTrack, then OP3, and then some other company I can't remember, and then another one. And you got to realize, because I had this happened this week at Podpage. Somebody's like, hey, my last 3 episodes haven't imported. And I went over, and they had so many of these, and one of them had given up the ghost. They were done. And so when one of those breaks, none of your files download, and your feed breaks, and all sorts of other fun stuff. So the advantage is, in the long run, you can save money, because Bunny is dirt cheap. I'll put a link in the chat here in a second, because I believe I have an affiliate for them. But it's not where you log into, whoever, Captivate, Buzzsprout. Everything's in one place. And so it's a matter of, is this extra time you're taking to do these things worth the $12 you're paying for hosting? I don't know. Jim, do you use a CDN for anything?
I don't. I use Maple Grove Partners, which is kind of self-hosting, right? I mean, he's just a host provider. He's taking the complexity out of it for you. He's not a mainstream, he's just a small host provider. So I like to say I'm self-hosted, but I'm using someone else that, when my things break, I call Christian and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, this isn't working. Can you fix it for me?" I think now Randy's like truly self-hosting. Like he's
Yeah.
doing all of the work. 99%, we just lost 99% of our audience right now because they
Yeah.
were like, I don't
Huh?
want to I don't want to do
Yeah.
the complexity. 99% of the people should not help self-host. Like
No.
pay the money. It's not cheaper. I mean, it is maybe in money you actually pay, but in time you put into it, probably not. Not for most people, right? Randy's got some special skills. I sound like Liam Neeson.
It does.
He's got some special
I have
skills.
special skills.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you don't download my show, I will find you and I will kill you.
Find you and I'll kill you. Yes. So it is, if you've got those skills and you can do it fairly easily and you like doing it, great. That's 1%, right? The rest of us just buy hosting. You're fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
And then buy a host provider that you like.
Yeah,
they're all the same. They're all the same. Right
well, here's
now.
the thing. PowerPress does the heavy lifting for me. The reason I don't PowerPress is I still use it on the School of Podcasting because it's been there for 19 years, but I don't use it for my feed because a bunch of Germans liked my site once, and they liked it a whole lot to where whatever that's called, a denial of service or whatever, they were just pounding the School of Podcasting. Well, that was my feed. My feed was on my website. And so at the time I was hosted on HostGator. That is so back in the day because it was, $4 a month or something like that. And that's actually back when HostGator support wasn't bad. And they're like, if you can do anything to get your feed off of your website, they're like, they're just pounding your feed for some reason. So I redirected my Blueberry feed to the Libsyn feed and I let them take all the bandwidth. And so that's why, and that's also, if you ever wonder why Blueberry, whatever, they're the patrons of the PowerPress plugin, why did they make Podcast Mirror? Because sometimes you want your feed off your website. And so their Podcast Mirror is basically an alternative to FeedBurner, which is a whole other thing. The one and only Jeff C. Since most people are using AI for creating show notes, and for the record, I like Captivate's AI stuff. Cast Magic, which I bought on AppSumo, has done apparently a lot of, not that it was bad, but their AI show notes now, I was like, whoa. And thanks to Mark Johansson for pointing that out. He was like, you need to go watch a couple videos. And so AI show notes were pretty good. But he says, since AI is creating show notes, will this cause even more people to not read show notes since they're now AI? That's a great question.
I don't think people know. I mean, for the most part, with AI, like even when we did at work, we did a bunch of AI voice work this week. It's just one of those things that we had a need for it. And what I find with AI voice cloning is kind of what we've been calling it. When you tell the person it's AI, they treat it differently than when you don't.
Oh,
right. And so go ahead.
Well, I just have a great example of this.
Yeah.
I'm listening on Spotify and this band comes on and I'm like, man, who is this? I really like them. And this has happened at least 3 times with this band. And when I hear them, I like it because I don't know who it is. And then I see that it's Wolfgang Van Halen. It's Eddie's kid. And because he doesn't sound like Van Halen, if I know it's him, I'm like, well, this doesn't sound like Van Halen because it's not. He doesn't want to sound like his dad. But there are times knowing what it is will switch the way you think about it. So when you're talking about, if I know it's AI, well, then I'm like, well, I'm looking for, like last night, I brought back, just because I felt like it, the podcast Rodeo Show, which reminds me, we have to talk about checking your stuff. Okay. But there was I listened to a podcast about copywriting, and in her description, she said deep dive. And I was like, because when I see deep dive, all sorts of red flags go off in my head that like, what you're reading is AI. And I'm like, well, it's a copywriter though. Surely she's not writing like her show description is not written by AI, but yeah, you never know. But I mean, I went back, I've seen old posts I've had where I said deep dive before AI wasn't even born yet. So, but getting back to Jeff's question.
Delves. That's a telltale. Delves and M dashes. Well, so, and I even did an experiment one time where I gave people 2 tracks that I had made and said, tell me which one is AI. And I played both, and they'd pick one or the other. And I said, what if I told you they were both AI? Right. And so right. Yeah, that little Microsoft, what's the name of that? They did a campaign like that one time. Anyways. So I think in the writing piece, we're going to get, it's kind of similar, right? You might know, you might not know. And then the other thing happened to me the other day. I was doing some recording, and they were listening to me recording, and they said, "Oh, you said that like the AI." Like what? Because we had an AI version of me saying something,
okay.
and then they had been listening to that a whole bunch as they were trying to get the so they were trying to get this video piece together. They were listening to the AI Jim. And so then they're listening to me actually talk, and they're like, "Oh, you talk like your AI." I'm like, "That's because it's me."
Yeah, that's right.
It talks like me. So I think in some regards, when we don't know it, it's different. Like you have a different, you kind of have a different, you judge it a little bit differently. I think in written show notes, listen, we're not really writing show notes for people anymore. I don't know if you guys know this, but this is the conversation in chat. Very few people actually go out and see your show notes, right? The ones that do are super engaged, though, and they expect to see some things, right?
Chris says, I can't wait to read the show notes, said no one ever.
No one, until you have that really engaged listener who says, you said you'd put it in your show notes. I went and looked. It's not
there. And that's
right.
I will write you a sternly worded letter. If I'm listening to an author, you've convinced me I need this book, and I go to the show notes and there's no link to the book. Oh,
like, hey, so you're not writing it so that it's going to be a New York Times bestseller. You're writing it so that for that person who wants to come and who needs that information, and 2, you're writing it for the bots. 5 years ago, you were writing it for the Google crawlers, right? So that you could get. Today, you're writing it so that you are getting all the AI bots that are out there for generative AI. And, the biggest piece of advice that AI itself gives you is restructure those notes with FAQs. Like, AI loves FAQs right now. So if you're not including FAQs as part of your show notes, you're probably missing something. Can't tell you what you're missing because nobody knows the algorithm that makes the LLMs that make these things, but that's what they say. So are people flooding to your show notes? No. But if you have a very engaged audience, you're going to get from time to time somebody who goes. And then 2, you're really writing it, and ask AI itself, how should these notes be structured so that you crawl them better or more or whatever?
That's not a bad idea.
That's what you're writing it for.
Well, Chris says, add this into your show notes prompt. Include links to everything mentioned in the show. Yeah, yes. Captivate does that, and they said that's because they heard me mention it on this show. Because I would go into Cast Magic and I'm like, and name all the companies and list all the links, and that way.
Don't trust the links, though. Don't trust the links.
No,
they're going to AI will make those links up for sure. They will, right?
Well, and I said in the podcast rodeo show, which Glenn said, I'm still subscribed to that show. So it's been a year. It was September of 2024 was the last time I did that. And I said podcast rodeo show, and it put it down as podcastradioshow.com. And I was like, nope, you're close. Nope. It's a bad name.
It doesn't check them. It doesn't check them. It does not check your links.
Yeah.
Like it is. And for those sites, those weird sites, like where, let's just use Podpage.
Yeah.
Say Podpage, say somebody else had Podpage, so they needed podpage.hq or podpagehq.com was there. The AI is not going to get that right. Not right now. It may get better in the future, but it will absolutely get those things wrong. You have to check your links for sure.
Well, speaking of checking things, so I went to this show. It was called Talk Copy to Me, which I kept having Poison run through my head. The band, Talk Copy to Me. And I went to her website, and she does. I guess we're going to throw shade. It was a good show, for the record, if you go listen to it. But on her front page, she mentioned that she can help you with her podcast. And on her front page, she had a link to Google Podcasts. So, oopsie. Yeah. And so I mentioned that this morning, and Jim's like, let me go look. And he's like, oops. And I'm like, what? He goes, I have a link to Google Podcasts. So if you, back when we mentioned it in like March that Google Podcasts was going away, you should probably remove that. And you went, oh, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. And then, well, some of us forgot. So I'll have to go look.
I didn't even think twice. Like I forgot I used Daniel's social subscribe icons, and which are fantastic, by the way. And I totally forgot. So it's one of those. How often do you look at your own subscribe page? Right? It's maybe worth setting an alert for once every 6 months. Do you think, to go out and say, hey, what's died? What's new? Should I be adding new things to my subscribe page?
There were all sorts of stuff on that particular website on podcastradioshow.com that were like, whoa, that's like, I had an old email form there that goes to nothing. I had a lot of stuff going to nothing. And then to make matters worse, I went to her contact page to say, hey, just so you know, you have Google Podcasts on your front page. You might want to remove that. Oh, and by the way, I gave you a Winnie. I really like the way you started off your show. And I filled out my name and my email and the message, and I hit send, and her form or whatever she was using. Yeah. So I could not contact her to let her know that her Google Podcast was on. And it was like, so if you want people to contact you, go use your own contact form just to make sure it works. Make sure it's not going to spam, all that kind of stuff. Because when I looked at the site, I was like, wait, this is pointing at, I had a bunch of stuff it was pointing to that doesn't, I've changed. And I'm like, well, it's been a year, Jeff said I had a Google Plus link for years, but didn't know, to let it go. Holy cow. I got to find David Lee Roth. Where'd he go to? Because we actually, or we could just, nope.
Whoa. Woo! I can't quite get that. Woo!
I was looking at that or this. There we go.
There we are.
The one and only Bangs Naughty Bits gave us a super chat, a super whatever that's called. Yeah, a super chat. So thank you for that, my friend. From the one and only, thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of human mind. There we go. So appreciate that. And he's over there. If you want to see Banks, he's one of the moderators over at the R, however you say that in Reddit, but it's the podcasting. That's where half these questions come from every morning. I go over there and see people asking things.
Reddit's still a thing? Like people still?
And if you listen to the SEO people, everybody should have their own subreddit because it gets crawled all the time. Like AI loves Reddit to crawl. So I was like, interesting. But yeah, so
I have to check it out. I didn't think it was a thing anymore.
Oh, but I'm here to tell you, it's the same questions every week. It's video. How do I do video? I want to do a 3-camera shoot with no microphones in the shot for under $100. And you're like, no, there's that. Speaking of that though, here, straight from Reddit. Let me share my screen. I'm going to read this the way it's written. Can use the camera on my iPhone for recording my video podcast, and he said, I've searched this quite a few times. So thank you to that person for actually searching Reddit. So many people just go there and go, how do I grow my audience? And see that, that's been asked 14 million times a day for the last 20 years. I've searched this quite a few times on here and see many people saying, just use your iPhone camera, but don't waste money on a separate camera just for your podcast. But how has everyone been transferring their footage from an iPhone to editing software like Adobe Premiere? So I like this guy. If he's got Adobe Premiere, he's not trying to do this on the cheap. He said, I've used WeTransfer in the past, but anything over 10 minutes is impossible to send. And I don't want to record 2 hours and then have to wait 4 hours to upload to then just download on a different computer. To this, I ask, you're doing a 2-hour video show? Holy cow. That's a long time to hold people's attention. This is why I've been looking into having a camera that we can just pop out an SD card and plug it into a card reader and be done. How has everyone used the iPhone method and made it possible for a video podcast? I have separate mics, so no worries. And since we're sharing my screen, if I go to, there is a software called Camo Studio, and it basically pops up and it says no device detected. But anyway, you basically wirelessly connect your phone. There I am. So there's my that's me. Hi, there's me. And I can come in here and say, there's all sorts of stuff. I can auto adjust. I can white balance. I can all this stuff on the right-hand side. And I could also, I'm assuming then, take OBS or some sort of recording thing and use this as a camera. And then, so if I look, I want to look like a Smurf. Ooh, that's cute. There we go. A little Halloween coloring for us. Daddy, I want it now. I look purple. It's pretty cool. I think it's $99 for lifetime access, but Camo is another way that you could, and I don't know if that works on PC or not. I know it works on, a Mac, and I almost kind of want to go, if you want to do video, get a Mac. Just get a Mac. And I used to hate people that said that, but it's kind of true in a way. So
he has phone link now. So if you just put in search, if you have PC, just search phone, and you see application called Phone Link, and then you can share files that way, depending on how you're connected. So if you connect with a wire, I would recommend USB-C wire to it. It'll transfer files between your phone and your PC pretty easily now. If you have a Mac, it just works.
Yeah.
You don't need to, if you're going iPhone to Mac, there's a couple ways to do it that are pretty easy.
That was my other thing.
Use Phone Link.
I know on a Mac you can do the AirDrop thing. That would take a while anything's going to take a while for a 2-hour video file. And I'm sure he's shooting in 8K because you're 16K or 1 million K or whatever we're up to today. Chris from castahead.net, highly recommend Camo. Super easy to use on the fly. I use it often as an alternative camera. Jeff C., I use Camo and an old iPhone to have an overhead shot for product videos. Yeah, it's also great on an iPad. And then Chris from Podcastic Audio, Apple is the best for creators. The iPad is great. I use it as a monitor for Camo when filming away from my desk. How cool is that?
iPads can be really helpful. They can be very, very helpful. Yeah.
Rich says I use NDI HX camera on my iPhone 6 and then bring in the second shot over NDI. There you go. Yeah. NDI is amazing. I don't know what that stands for. Not doing it. NDI. Yeah.
That's funny. Sorry.
So, and you're, yeah. So, Ralph found, it must have gone over listening to the podcast rodeo show. I forgot
Network
I had
device interface, by the way.
I forgot I had a service. It's still there. If you go to daveinyourpocket.com, it's coaching without calendars. That does sound a little weird, doesn't it? Like Dave in your pocket.
Are you happy to see me, or do you have a Dave in your pocket?
Nice. But that was something I was trying. And I found, so as I'm going through the podcast rodeo show, I'm like, oh, I forgot I tried this. And I found an old ad and put it in the middle of it. So yeah, always fun. You know what else is always fun? Our awesome supporters. They are great. They're amazing. We almost should rename them the Amazing Supporters, but that sounds like some sort of, I don't know, Marvel movie coming out in the spring. The Amazing Supporters. And so we are talking about these people here. So, and I need to update this slide because we have lost a few. Thanks, government shutdown. But we're not going to talk politics. But I've had a few people like, hey, I'm not making money, so you're not. But thanks to all those people. And also, Ralph updated one of his shows, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the show is brought to you by the schoolofpodcasting.com, where you get courses, you get coaching and community. Use the coupon code COACH when you sign up for either a monthly, a quarterly, or yearly subscription. And if you need some honest feedback on your show, check out podcasthotseat.com. I will go over an episode that you pick, and I'll go over your website. We'll look for that low-hanging fruit that you might have missed, and it's all there at podcasthotseat.com. And when you're at askthepodcastcoach.com, you're looking at Podpage. And if you want to try Podpage, it's simple. Go to trypodpage.com. If you want to learn Podpage, go to learnpodpage.com. Or, Jim said it earlier, if you go to Podpage HQ in YouTube, I just put out where did this phrase come from? Soup to nuts. What? Have you ever heard that? Oh, man, it's from soup to nuts. And I'm like...
No, I'm going to look it up, though. I'll look it up right now while you're talking. We'll
yeah, but it's from picking your colors to putting content into it. There's a video on our YouTube channel there. And if you need more Jim Cullison, look at him scurrying, trying to find that answer. Well, then go over to theaverageguy.tv and check out Home Gadget Geeks. And it's time for the supporter of the week. And so this is where if I can get every week I say, I'm losing this PC. I need both my monitors. But I swapped out some artwork because while he's still doing the Growth and Grit show, Ralph is now the content creator's accountant. Find that at Content Creators Accountant, because it's not just about making money as a content creator, it's keeping it. And that's what Ralph is going to help you do over at Content Creators Accountant. And I just realized there's a shuffle button on this show, or on the wheel of names. And so we're going to shuffle it. We're going to shuffle it again and one more time, and then we'll click spin. And who will be the featured supporter of the week? It is the ladies. Is it going to stay there?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on screen, Dave.
You're not. Well,
I only see the. There we go.
Oh,
there we go.
There we go. Honest.
Okay.
There you go.
It did spin.
It did spin. It did. And it came up on the ladies from keeptheflamealivepod.com. When are the Olympics coming up? Because that's what they cover.
Let's see. It's 25, 26 next year. Maybe it's the winter. I think so. Because didn't we just have Paris for the summer?
I think so. So, so they'll be over there covering the games for us. And if you're a fan of the Olympics, well, then you'll be a fan of that show because they do it very well. And if you found the show to be entertaining, maybe we saved you some time, we saved you some money, we saved you a headache, maybe we kept you educated, simply go to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. You don't have to do the $20 value to be on the wheel of names. It could be as low as $5 a month, but thank you to all of our awesome supporters. And so with that, where did the nuts? Soup to nuts.
So
yeah.
It's a dinner phrase. In a full course meal, you would start with the soup. You would end with the nuts. Sweet. They had some sweet or this is not before. Yeah, this phrase has been around a while. So I don't know. I like to start with dessert myself. That's just the way I go in. So cake or cookies.
Well, that's my whole thing. Like, when did nuts become dessert? I'm like,
in the old days before they had, that like modern
ice cream and pie. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, maybe that's we haven't always lived in this kind of decadence that we have today. This sort of processed food decadence.
The decadent really world of ice cream.
Super tasty. I'm not going back. Listen, I'm not going back. Listen, cavemen ate organically, and they only lived to be like 30 years old. So I don't want to. Their life was terrible. I'm not going back to that. I enjoy my cakes and cookies and desserts.
Yeah, we have an oldie but a goodie. Speaking of how the same questions are asked on Reddit all the time. How's my progress so far? You see this a lot. Hey, friends, brand new to podcasting. I'm wondering how my numbers look to experienced serial podcasters. So far, I've published 11 episodes in 11 days and have 45 total downloads. I'm in the saturated tech and AI news space, but on the weekends, I try to change it up for a day, gaming on Saturday, and last week, single topic meta industry analysis. We talked about the AI bubble for 10 minutes. It wasn't very popular, so I'm thinking of switching it up. It wasn't. I wonder what as in the whole show? Anyway,
maybe the AI bubble part wasn't popular.
Yeah. Anyway, just curious, how many downloads compare? Is this really a slow start for normal for 11 episodes? To which, of course, I asked, hey, did you get some feedback before you launched? Because authors have rough drafts, actors have dress rehearsals, athletes have, preseason, because it might be that you put out a rough draft and you're now wondering why it's not growing. So that would be that. But if you go to buzzsprout.com/stats, you can see that Apple Podcast is 36%, Spotify is 28%, and if we go down here somewhere, their average, their median, meaning 50% get more and 50% get less, is 28 downloads after the first 7 days. So that's not 30 days. I wish they would change that to 30 days. That's more the benchmark. That's why that number's so low, because I always wondered. But if you take that 28 and times it by 4, you've got 116. That's about, to me, I think the average, because I know Libsyn's average, I think the median over there is, again, 100 and something, and the Libsyn average is around 1,000. That doesn't mean that Libsyn gets you more downloads. In fact, these days, Libsyn's been having a bad month. I don't know what's going on over there, but this is something.
Say a host provider can't get you more downloads, Dave? Is that what you just said? Publicly?
I just said that publicly.
Don't they all advertise that if you come to them, they will make you the best?
Oh yeah, well, here, I'll just give, and I like these guys. I'm not going to throw shade. I'm just going to pick on them a little bit, but everybody does this, okay? But when I go here, by the way, if you're using Acorns, I could earn 20.6% by using whatever affiliate link they just put in here. But when I see stuff on any media host here where it says share your episodes on social media, almost all of them do that. Embed them on an external website, all of them do this. Automatically distribution of your episodes to all the listing platforms, they all do that. It's not a feature. You're going to get analytics. They all do, and every website, Now this one, they have dynamic ads. So if you want your 3 cents a down, or 0.003 cents a download, but if I go to, let's go to Podbean, they're all going to say the same thing. You're a hosting and monetizing platform. And how do they do it? Well, you're going to create like a pro. Where's their features at? But all their features are, turn your passion into a new income stream. See, they're getting a little, with Podbean AI, just use AI and money will fall from the heavens. Don't they? They're not doing their typical thing. They have analytics. You have an app. Yay. You can live stream on Podbean. Where's the
snarkiness? Listen, there are some, though,
Yeah.
I think podcasts.com, which
Oh, is
those
that
guys
still a
have
thing?
not updated. It is still a thing, and they haven't updated that site in 1,000 years. So while we say all podcast sites are the same, and I say it jokingly, or maybe not, a little bit, there are some out there that are definitely not keeping up with the Joneses. So
I love this.
I would,
Look, you can upload it and then play it. Yeah, I hope so. Easy podcast sharing into all the apps, of course, and
Yes.
statistics. And,
and it doesn't work sometimes. It's been I subscribe to as many as I can, just so I can kind of stay on top of them in what they're doing. And that's one that hasn't updated in a while. So buyer beware, they're not all exactly the same. But when we think about the big players, right, that are out there, it's pretty much what you want to use at this point, right? We've kind of reached parity among the big 7 or 8.
Yeah, and then Mark says most people going in don't know this. Yeah, that's true.
That
So
is true. That is true.
yeah,
It's good. It's good to know us seasoned folks, bitter. I would say seasoned and bitter. Stop asking the same questions. I mean,
yeah.
it's just part of.
Well, and Rich says I use dynamic slots for my own stuff. My calls to A go for my newsletter, things like that. Yeah, so like RSS.com, Libsyn has ads. I think I made 17 cents last month in Libsyn on my Building a Better Dave show because it gets no downloads at all. But and I have to wait till I get to $50. So sometime in 2030, I will get my $50 from Libsyn. And that's not a Libsyn thing. That's a dynamic, it's 0.003 cents a download. And that's kind of the same for most of those. So if I move to Spreaker or if I move to RSS.com, which has ads, or Red Circle, the dynamic ad thing. I have a guy, I want to get on Zoom with him. He's telling me, no, man, I got $30 CPM for dynamic stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm willing, show me the money. But I don't know anybody that's doing that and having that kind of CPM. And even that, okay, I get 300 downloads. I'm getting $30 per 1,000. So that means I made $10 maybe, which $10 is better than nothing. The ads come from usually the same places. One begins with a T. You'll hear them a lot from, Tom Webster and Brian Barletta. Sounds Profitable. There's like 3 companies that do all the ads, and they all do the same thing. So it's all going to be Geico and whatever, and that's also, you'll notice if you click play on a show and nothing happens and then an ad comes on, that's what's going on. Is behind the scenes. It's sneezing.
Bless you. Bless you.
It's going out and getting the ad and dynamically inserting it into, and it's figuring out where you are, the listener, so it can talk about, Carl Jones Chevy, go down to Carl and get yourself a Chevy, and so that's always kind of freaky. I felt bad. I had 2 ads this week at the beginning of a show, which to me is a horrible way to start your show. And they were in Spanish, of which besides Yo como manzanas, which is I eat apples, that's all I know, and how to count to 4, and I was like, so there's some ad spend that was not well done. I was like, I don't know why you think people in Akron are speaking Spanish, but there are definitely some. But yeah. So yeah, Mark is saying if you put out more Building a Better Dave episodes, you'll get more downloads. Yeah, that's just my therapy. I almost put out one today, realizing that Neil Young is the guy from Petticoat Junction, which really, really, really dates me. But any Southern, there's always that old Southern guy that talks like this. I don't know what tarnation he's doing, and then I was like, if that guy started to sing, old man, look at I'm like, wait, Neil Young is the old Southern guy in these old shows, So, and that was almost a better Dave. So that is the genius that goes into building a better Dave, or just the fact that I hate getting old, which is slowly most of my episodes over there. Like, well, I can't sing a high A anymore. Not that I ever should have, but if I try to do that, that's not going to work. Here's a fun one. Speaking of starting podcasts, wait, Jack has a question. What platform are you using to stream now? No, I am using Ecamm. Ecamm Live. I think I have. Do I have? Yes, there's a link to Ecamm. StreamYard, for the record, we were talking about this on every Friday. We do lunch with Dave at the School of Podcasting. And Chris from castahead.net said, it's expensive, but it works, because we're talking about Riverside. Riverside just added a new feature, which I went, oh no, because when they add a new feature, that means it's probably also going to cause some bugs, because that's just, hey, here's the good news here's a new feature, and we threw in some bugs just for fun. But you can now, and I need to go back and watch this video, but it appeared that you could now plug 2 USB microphones into the same computer. So if it's you and your co-host and you're in the same room, you could get separate tracks on the same computer in a browser. And that's one that I go, I got to go watch that again because that sounds almost impossible. But I saw that in there. So, yeah, Jack, unfortunately, Ecamm is for Mac only. If you're looking for something that's not StreamYard, you could use, I tried these guys for a month and they weren't bad. It was a little Ecamm-y versus StreamYard-y, but not the price. And it was EV Mux, which if I had anything to say to them, I would go get a new name. That's just not. So Ken says, have regular downloads is better or worse than putting them up when you want. I don't know for the fans. Questions. Having regular downloads is better or worse than putting them up when you want.
So you like weekly versus whenever, like you just do Building a Better Dave whenever you have something.
When I feel so moved, yeah. And I got that lesson from the one and only Ray Ortega, who if I can remember, I'm going to nudge him. I want to bring back Podcasters Roundtable. I missed that show. But Ray did an episode called The Podcaster Studio, and he went from being super consistent to not. But when he put one out, it was always amazing. And so that's where I'm like, I would rather bring consistent value if I can't deliver a consistent schedule, because I just knew it was good. Randy says that would be really hard to do on Windows. Windows needs the device to have a separate UUID. Again, Randy, network admin guy here, to see them as different devices. A lot of USB microphones don't do that and use a single. Yeah, this is where if you had two Samsung Q2Us, a PC computer won't know which one's which. So, so when I need to go back, I just saw that in Riverside and was like, wait, can you do that? That seems crazy. And so just to show you, and this is where, if you haven't seen Riverside, let me share my screen. It's a little, there's a lot going on in here. And I think if I go into my projects, or if I go here, see, I'm not in here enough to know what I'm really doing. That's Heidi. She's going to be on the show, I think, next week for the School of Podcasting. But somewhere in here, you can go in. I'll have to do this when I know what I'm doing, because I don't. So meanwhile, over in Notejoy, I need help picking a podcast name. She says, my friend and I are wanting to start a podcast, but we can't for the life of anything think of a name. We narrowed a setting down to filming and recording in our car. So we made a few segment names and lists based off of that vibe. That kind of doesn't make any sense. I'm going to name the show about where I recorded. So welcome to Dave's spare bedroom and Jim's basement. That wouldn't make any sense. We have a list of words and we feel like we have good ideas, but we're stumped. Any idea is welcome. Doesn't have to include just the words. Segments include carpool confessions. What's on aux? If they want to be a listener or watcher, hitch a ride. See, because they're all in the car, but that's not about what the topic is, unless you're talking about cars. So there is, if you go to the Google, and because I don't know where this is, but if I go Buzzsprout podcast name generator, Podpage also has one of these. You can go in here and answer some words and do that. I don't know if it's going to let me do that because I'm probably logged into Podpage. Survey says I am. I guess if I logged out, because it's in the footer. If you go to podpage.com, at the bottom, somewhere down here is a podcast resources, podcast name generator. So there's another one where you enter a description of your podcast and answer some questions, and it will spit out an answer. So if you're looking for that, my always thing for a podcast is if I go to someone and say, I'm doing a show called Riding Through Indiana. What do you think it's about? That person should probably go, I don't know, either horseback, bicycle, or motorcycle through Indiana. To me, you want it to be obvious. You want it to have keywords. Like Jim has Home Gadget Geeks. There you go. He's got home gadgets. That's what people are looking for in Geeks. So,
Yeah, that worked out well. I haven't done a lot of things right podcasting sometimes, but that name worked out really, really well.
Yeah. So where Podcast Rodeo Show is a horrible name. That's why I changed it later to Podcast Hot Seat. But Podcast Rodeo Show, wasn't supposed to be a real show. It was a show I plan on doing for a couple weeks while I tested a media host. And then the audience was like, no, don't stop. You're saying everything we're thinking. But that wasn't supposed to be a real show because people understandably think it's about the rodeo. And then they like, wait, this guy's just talking about shows. So that's not a good name at all. Let's see. Here's a fun one.
I don't totally agree with you, Dave. I mean, I know you're dissing on your own title, but
right.
The Podcast Rodeo Show is one of those that, yes, maybe on initial read, you're like, is this rodeo thing? But I think the word rodeo is enough, especially with your graphic, to give people an idea of what they're getting. And then once you've been there once, or someone says, hey, you need to listen to the Podcast Rodeo Show, they don't, then you blow right past the problems with that, right? And so I disagree with you a little bit on your own hardening to yourself.
That's
why I don't think it's terrible.
Yeah. Well, I finally added a tagline. And so now it's Podcast Rodeo Show, reviews and first impressions of your podcast.
Yeah.
So,
no, right on. Right on.
Oh,
I know you're hard on yourself on that one, but I don't know if that that's just an area where the inflection in the title, like when we sorry, I'm so low here. My back is struggling.
No, that's all right.
I was sweating earlier. It was hurting so bad. This is where the I don't know what to call it, nuance, the wording in it. Someone will help me in chat room. It helps with it, right? I mean, so once it gets going, it's simple. Yeah, it's the rodeo show, right? And people would say, "Have you listened to this week's rodeo show?" I don't think it always has to be 100% clear exactly what it is, because sometimes those things are boring, right?
Well, yeah,
those are boring titles.
It can help, but yeah, if you've got content that makes people go, "Oh, you got to listen to that." But the other thing I forgot to check was I came over and I was like, nobody's signed up for this in forever. So I came over and I clicked on Get Reviewed, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I came down here and I clicked on the Review Me button, and it took me over to Fiverr, which is what I was using to process it. And Fiverr, then I logged in and I'm like, what's going on? All of my gigs have been put on hold because I needed to fill out some tax some sort of tax information, of which I then clicked on that to fill that. And speaking of checking stuff, that page wouldn't let me fill out my tax stuff. It just sat there and spun. I was like, this is just a whole night of things not working. So I ended up, just to make it easier, I set up the rodeo show now to use Buy Me a Coffee. You can sell stuff through Buy Me a Coffee. So I basically, that's another thing. So you go over to Buy Me a Coffee, give me my $20, and then when that goes through, I now use tally.so, which is a free tool you can use to make forms. You can also use Google Forms. I just like the way Tally looks. It's got kind of a smoother look. But there's a thing on AppSumo. And you know how people talk about having a minimal viable product? And I went over, because I use TidyCow. I used to use SendFox. They have a bunch of built-in tools that were built by AppSumo. And so I was like, you know what? It can't be that bad. And so I bought I think it's called Form Robin. Yeah, $19. And I was like, okay, but if you want this is like minimal viable product to like ridiculous. Like I couldn't put a logo on the form. I could barely change the colors, and it worked. But I was like, no, when I can get more functionality from a free service, like why would I pay? And I know it's $19 for life, and yes, they're going to fix it. But I came over here and said, hey, this is a free tool, Tally, TALLY.so. And although I need to fix this banner because it cut it off, but I was like, I'm not paying that $20 for a barely like minimal viable working tool for $19. So I do not I like a lot of AppSumo stuff. And here's the really cool thing. They say, hey, if you don't like, their product within the first 30 days. Well, for me, it was like the first 30 minutes. I went, wait, I can't do that. And I turned around and said, hey, I would like a refund. And I woke up this morning. They're like, hey, so sorry you didn't like that. Thanks for the feedback. And I got my $19 back. So, and then they said, please remember that it takes 5 to 10 business days to get that. And speaking of that topic, I cannot stress this enough. If you have a problem with any company, reach out to the company, because I see a lot of people on Reddit that say things like, hey man, Spotify took down my show, which they say a lot on Spotify. There's a lot of people getting flagged for music that they swear they have the rights to. Like they bought royalty-free music and it's still like they took the episodes down on Spotify, which is just a Spotify thing. And I always say, what did Spotify say when you approach them? And their answer is, oh, I just came here to see if anybody else is having this. Well, that's not going to, what if 10 people said, yeah, it happened to me too, which is what happened, but it didn't really, fix their problem. I go to the people that can fix the problem, Spotify. Or if you're having a problem with Captivate or Buzzsprout or whoever, Podpage, don't go to social media because so many times I see people give a blatantly wrong answer because they don't understand the basic mechanics of a podcast. And they're like, no, you just upload it to Apple. And I'm like, that's not really how that works. So always reach out to the company that you have a problem with and give them 24 hours. I will say I was really disheartened with Red Circle, because I always say, if you're going to use free, use Red Circle. Don't use Spotify. And I went over because I have one show on Red Circle. And I noticed in Pocket Cast that it had the website it listed in apps was to go to the Red Circle website. I'm like, no. So I went into Red Circle. I'm like, I need to add my website to that. And you couldn't do it. And when I realized, and their help desk said, yeah, you can't change this. We're always going to point people. And I was like, but I'm paying you $9 a month. And so I emailed them, waited 24 hours, got no response. And then it'd been like a day and a half. And I'm like, hey, just for the record, you're hijacking my brand. And that's a deal breaker. Can't believe I can't change this, so thank you, but good night. And oh, by the way, F you and anything that is even close to your AI automated thing, because it only, cheesed me off even more. And it took them 3 days, but they finally got back and said, we're so sorry. Sorry for the delay, and we've updated your show to show your thing. You're right. That's dumb, and they had some weird reason why they couldn't do it. But maybe I need to give people 36 hours to reply. But again, when it's free, even though I'm paying a whopping $9 a month. So always reach out to that. So
you say, good day, sir. Good day.
That was, I pretty much, it was a sternly written letter. I was really pissed because I promote them all the time. I'm like, look, if you got to do free, go Red Circle. And then I was like, wait, what? So I need to now email that guy and say, can you, is this something I got because I complained? Or are you guys going to fix that? Because that's kind of not cool, because they make their money through those, 0.003 cents a download ads, which I've made. I have the Logical Weight Loss podcast on there, and that still gets, because it's evergreen content. And I think I made, I don't know, $8 or something. Not enough to pay for the hosting, but I actually made, more than 37 cents or something like that. So just a reminder, no show next week. I will be at Pod Indy. If you're anywhere near Pod Indy, stop by and grab yourself a ticket. Jim, what is coming up on... I just realized I talked for about 12 minutes and you haven't said a peep. My apologies for that.
It's fine. My back's hurting. It's fine. I've been in the chat room. I've been helping him out in the chat room. It's absolutely fine. We have Gavin Campbell this week. He, of course, is. We talked a little bit. He got a whole season on a Segway robot lawnmower, so we spent some time talking about that. If you're an Unraid guy, there's been some updates to Unraid that you might want to check out. And then we talk a little bit about local AIs. And so Gavin's a great guy. If you just want an interesting conversation, because Gavin's interesting, check it out today, homegadgetgeeks.com.
I saw a video, remote controlled robot snowblower. And I was like, I would take that over.
Big in that space.
Yeah. I was like, now we're talking.
They're $5,000, Dave.
They are.
That's the thing. They're $5,000. So that's a lot of snow blowing.
Yeah, that's like you can buy a lot of winter coats for $5,000. Yeah, exactly.
A lot of teenagers a lot of money to clear my driveway for that kind of. Anyways, what's coming up for you, Dave?
I am because I like to talk about dead people. Ace Frehley died, and what kind of blew me away was how much influence that guy had, because in my opinion, when it comes to lickety split, like, wow, how did that guy do that? That's not Ace Frehley. Like, I was playing his stuff when I was 12. Not that he's bad. He's just not Zach Wild. Zach Wild has done things like 30 feet from me, and I just go, I have no idea how he did that on a guitar. But this guy had a huge influence. So my point, my one-word sentence of the show is, you don't have to be the biggest, baddest, whatever in your genre to still have influence. And there's a whole bunch of other lessons about that, and how he did some really cool business stuff. He did some really bad business stuff. But so we'll be talking Ace Frehley and podcasting on this week's School of Podcasting. So remember, no show next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody.